First of all, I must say that Sinn Féin believe that the 8th Amendment should be repealed and that abortion should be made available in certain cases where there is life-limiting disability, rape, incest, and where there is a threat to the health of the mother. And I want to thank my party for giving me the opportunity to speak on this bill, despite the fact that I have a different view from my party. Respectful debate on this issue is a threat to no one, and indeed it should be encouraged. I believe strongly that we need to fight for every single living human being, and that our yardstick is that no mother or child should be left behind by this state. Now, Fine Gael, I believe, isn't a good place currently to be a young mother or a child. The feminisation of poverty has accelerated under Fine Gael's austerity governments in the last number of years. Tonight, 3,267 children sleep in emergency accommodation. Dozens of children lie on trolleys daily and on overcrowded hospitals. And 52,257 children are on hospital waiting lists, and 8,500 children are waiting to see medical specialists. So what does it say about a particular government that at a time where hundreds of thousands of children are living in crisis amongst us now, that the next 7 months of the government's time will be consumed by deleting the rights to life of the unborn child? Now, Leo Varadkar states that he is pro-choice, but he ignores the fact that he has created the economic circumstances that lead so many women to believe that they actually don't have a choice. Now, I believe if Leo Varadkar is actually pro-choice, he should lift families out of poverty. He should fund childcare, housing, healthcare, provide decent living wage to women so that they believe that they have a future, that they believe that there is actually hope and a choice for them. In the Sunday newspapers, Regina Doherty stated that she was ignorant when she was pro-life. Now, if she was ignorant, that was her responsibility, because no elected rep should come in as an elected rep in this chamber and speak on this issue unless they have done the research and listened to the people on both sides of the actual debate. She's also stated that a no vote may not be accepted. What kind of slap on the face is it to the democratic process when a minister of the government alludes to a second referendum before the date of the first referendum has actually been selected? Now, the rights to life, I believe, is one of the most fundamental rights there is. It's probably one of the most defining values that any of us would actually recognise on both sides of the debate. It's typically not something that changes with radical speed amongst people. Initially, just a number of months ago, this debate had focused around the most difficult situations in people's lives. It focused on life-limiting disability, children conceived in rape and incest. But that's not where it's at anymore. The debate is actually not on that issue anymore. In a few short months, the debate has been radically transformed into a debate about whether or not we should have abortion on request in this state. Repeal, I believe, currently is a debate around abortion on request with no restriction for the first 12 weeks of the child's existence. Now, 12 weeks is around the time that actually mothers and fathers get to see the child for the first time at the 12-week scan. Most families will have photographs of their 12-week gestational child in their own homes currently. So what I believe at the moment is what's been discussed is a regime that will actually go much further than this country, or the people in this country will accept. And there's another element that's not being discussed, is that there doesn't seem to be in the policy documents that the Minister brought forward any gestational limit for certain children, maybe children with life-limiting conditions. And the UN Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities has recently objected to fatal impairments being used as a specific ground for abortion. The committee said that there was no guarantee as to whether or not a fetal abnormality was fatal. It states even if the condition is considered fatal, there is still a decision to be made on the basis of impairment. Often it cannot be said if an impairment is fatal. Experience shows that assessments on impairment conditions can often be false, Minister. And the debate has moved on with surprising rapidity over the last number of while. It's taken people by surprise, and some people have said to me, this feels like a blank cheque. And indeed, Leo Varadkar, 2 years ago, in an RTE studio, alluded to the fact that if you delete the 8th Amendment from the Constitution, you are literally leaving every single decision in the hands of governments that you may or may not have voted for. He said that the Dáil could legislate even for third trimester terminations. He said that as if it was shocking, but yet your policy document doesn't give a gestational limit to children with life-limiting conditions. I want to briefly refer to what Minister Simon Harris mentioned in his opening speech in this particular debate. In that contribution, he referred to Miss C. Now, I believe you wronged Miss C in this particular situation, Minister, because she has specifically asked that her case would not be used, as in her words, as an advertisement for abortion. Her experience actually highlights a taboo issue that is not being discussed on this issue, and that's the damage that abortion can do to mothers as well. Miss C was brutally raped when she was 13 years old, and she was taken by the HSE to England for an abortion. In the days before her abortion, in her own words, she said she was drugged to the eyeballs in her own room, and the staff held her down and injected her with drugs. Her parents took illegal action to try to prevent the abortion, but they failed. And a few years ago, Gemma O'Doherty published an interview with her, and in that interview, Miss C said, "It only really hits you after you have children. You never forget the missing baby. It plays in your mind every day. Any woman who has an abortion and then goes on to become a mother will know all about it." She goes on further in that particular issue. Where we're at the moment, Minister, is due to the Supreme Court's judgment, there is no further protection for an unborn child left in the Constitution, only in the 8th Amendment. The only thing that stands now to protect unborn children in the Constitution is the vote of the Irish people. One of the major difficulties I've had with abortion is the effect that it has on people on low incomes. In the States, for example, if you're on low incomes or the poverty line, you're much more likely to be aborted. In New York City, for example, more children, black children, were aborted that actually came to term, and that's in a city that cries that Black Lives Matter there. When the law changes, it affects the culture and that society in ways that you can't even imagine. The culture changes not by design but by default, and we do not want to become a country that counts chromosomes in this, like other countries, Minister. Invisible in this whole debate as well is the issue of gender selection abortion, which I have really major difficulties with. Estimates by Nobel economics winning professors have stated that there are about 100 million women missing in the world currently due to either gender selection abortion or the issue of infanticide. And I don't see anything in your particular policy legislation which could actually prevent that happening here in this country. The other issue that I just want to say in the few seconds that I've left is the life of the mother should be protected in every single crisis, bar none. This is a red line issue for me. But Ireland has one of the lowest maternity mortality rates in the world, even lower than many countries where abortion is legal. And in 2013, I attended the committee on that particular piece of legislation, and I asked the masters of the maternity hospitals who were there the question: did they know of any situation where a mother's life was lost in this country due to the 8th Amendment? And they all said no to me, Minister, at that time. This referendum will determine for 50 years hence who lives and who dies. What's at stake in this forthcoming referendum is the existence and the lives of tens of thousands of unborn children. Where there is life, there is hope. And I'm a firm believer that in the 21st century, we have to have achieved a society that looks to protect every single mother and child, that leaves absolutely no one behind. Míle maith agat.